everyone. Dr. Kristen here with an Abbey Research Reads recommendation for Beth Macy's Dopesick, the dealers, doctors, and the drug company that addicted America. So this is particularly the story of Oxycontin and other opioids, Oxycontin and heroin in particular, those two kind of sister drugs. And it covers the particular birthplaces of the opioid epidemic, the pill epidemic, as we call it in America, in kind of the Rust Belt in Appalachia, in former mining towns, and also up in Maine in former logging towns. And it talks about the Sackler family and Purdue Pharmaceuticals and how their particular lack of morals and ethics and their particular disregard for human life led to a lot of the thing. Because here's the deal. So people have been using morphine and heroin and opioid pain medication for a really, really long time, pretty much since we discovered it, since after the Civil War. And there's a lot of people that are on maintenance doses and are fine. And they're not addicted. They're on maintenance doses that are, if they stopped, the worst, they wouldn't get dope sick. They wouldn't have withdrawals. They would just be in a lot of pain. And that's possible, and that happens. The thing that OxyContin changed the game with was the accessibility and the strength. So by putting it in a pill form, the opioid, the poppy seed essentially, in a pill form, it got so strong that like one pill and you can be addicted, and that's not how it kind of used to work. So from the 90s onwards, plus the aggressive marketing campaigns and essentially in a lot of ways pressuring doctors into prescribing it, into over-prescribing it, we have a culture in the United States of prescribing pills instead of using other methods like acupuncture or physiotherapy instead of such for pain management or for accidents. Other countries are much slower to prescribe pain meds even before this issue. This all kind of congeals. Additionally, it gets to a point where the OxyContin isn't working for people anymore, either financially or physically. And so they switch to heroin, and heroin's dirt cheap. So you do have the dealers that come into it, cooking heroin in labs in Harlem and driving it into the rural parts of Virginia and Tennessee, the parts of the country that don't get talked about a lot, what we call the Rust Belt, and the parts that very, very frankly, nobody in the media or in a lot of America seemed to remember existed until the 2016 election. So Beth Macy published this book in 2017. It doesn't really talk about that. A lot of the research that she did with it was like in the summers of 2012 to 2015, and then she took a little bit to write the book, obviously. But you can tell that she's an award-winning journalist. All three of her books, this one, Factory Man, and I can't remember the other one, which is about Jim Crow, but they've all been on New York Times notable book lists for a reason. She's compelling, and she moves quickly. But one of the reasons that I recommend it, so I recommend it for two main reasons. One is that it's an incredible empathy read. If you are somebody watching this and you don't personally know anybody affected by the opioid crisis, statistically, you are an anomaly. Most Americans at this point know somebody who was addicted, who is addicted, who has a child who's been to rehab, who has lost a child to this. It may be suicide, it may be a car accident, but really you know in your heart that it's this. If you are an HR manager in this country, I just do not see a way that you don't have somebody in your workplace or somebody in your office who isn't affected by this. So understanding the history of it, understanding the ramifications of it beyond someone's a junkie and they deserve nothing, et cetera, et cetera. Understanding things like safe needle exchange places, like are the first one in the United States. The really largest citywide program was in Philly, and it's been very controversial here. Understanding what Narcan is and understanding what medical assisted treatment means and what different rehabs are and what that all looks like. It's really important to kind of understand this world that takes over the lives of millions and millions and millions of people worldwide that you may not have anything to do with directly. But like I said, the likelihood that you know someone or love someone who does is very, very high. Secondly, I would like to be part of a growing voice of advocates, Macy herself included, who would like to change the language from regarding the desperation that some people have into essentially stealing or selling their bodies or whatever to get their next high. And we tend to, in the United States, kind of talk about it as chasing their next high, which is a very derivative, very easily judged use of language. Like, oh, so-and-so, they broke into a Walmart and stole a bunch of TVs to get their next high. But that's not really what we know physiologically that they're doing. What they're doing is avoiding getting dopesick, which is the specific withdrawal that comes from heroin. It is excruciatingly painful. It is a couple days at least, sometimes longer, depending on your particular body. It comes with full body aches, shivers, tremors, vomiting, diarrhea, everything. And from every person that researchers have talked to you, from the physiological research that's been done, what people are doing is doing everything within their power to not get dopesick. That's what everything becomes about. It doesn't become about getting high. It becomes about not being sick. Because this is a reminder that addiction rewires your brain, and it is a disease. It is not necessarily, it may have been started by a choice, it may have been started by a series of choices, and it may be continued to be perpetuated by a series of choices. But fundamentally what it is a disease. If you're watching this and you think I'm a crackpot, and you think that I'm nuts and that I don't know what I'm talking about, excuse me, I can't encourage you enough to read this book. Once again, it's Dopesick by Beth Macy, one of the 100 notable books on the New York Times Book Review for a reason. A highly recommended Abbey research reads.